Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, and yeah, thank you for having me again at YoastCon. I was here 2 years ago, and I loved the conference, and I love it today. Great content, Carl, Laura, really awesome content, and I love being here. You all enjoy YoastCon? Yes, yes, very good, very good. And now you all want to drift off in the food coma. Yeah, let this guy talk, I'm going to sleep for a little bit. Yeah, no chance. As I said, 350 slides, so, well, we better get going. Hi, I'm Marcus. On Twitter, I am Media Adonis. I am a proud dad. This is my son Julius and little Isabella. I'm passionate about SEO. I have a colorful past in the search marketing industry. I'm the host at SEO Oktoberfest, some of you might have heard of. Yoast has been a founding member of this event and a true veteran, of course, and also a valued sponsor. Thank you very much. I'm founder and managing director at Write, which has formerly been known as onpage.org. You may know us from our kick-ass integration within the Yoast SEO plugin. Yoast said it earlier this morning. Right now, we're doing 2 million indexability checks each day. So a lot of volume coming from Yoast. We are a team of 65 people now. As you can see, we love fushing, yeah, the Bavarian version of Carnival. By the way, there's our lead developer in there. We have recently completed our Series A funding round, raising 3.1 million euros. But enough from me. Let's talk about what Google has been up to these days. So 7 years ago, Google's former CEO, Eric Schmidt, set the agenda to mobile first. End of last year, Google's new CEO, Sundar Pichai, called out a new mission. Now it's AI first, to ultimately fulfill a goal which Larry Page himself targeted in 2002. It's mentioned in this article on Wired.com. So in 2002, back when Google was still perceived a lot differently, Google is a pure search engine. No weather, no news feed, no links to sponsors, no ads, no distraction, no portal litter. Nothing but a fast-loading search site. Reward them with a visit. Yeah, that has changed. The reporter asked Larry Page, Larry, I still don't get it. There's so many search companies. Web search for free? Where does that get you? And Larry Page answered something very interesting. And keep in mind, this is 2002, so 15 years ago. Oh, we are really making an AI. So artificial intelligence. Rather than using AI to make their search better, Google is using search to make their AI better. They have realized something very long ago. It's an excellent example of their always curious, very long-term strategy approach. And let me quote from the article again. By 2024, Google's main product will not be search, but AI. AI is getting pretty good. Computers have already learned to use their brain. In May, Google introduced their new machine learning project, AutoML, designed to help optimize their code. And the system runs thousands of simulations to find out which part of the code could be optimized. And then it's rinse and repeat. And just recently, this AutoML system managed to outsmart human developers. The via AutoML created AI set a new record with 82% accuracy when categorizing images based on what's on them. The software developed by the AI was also more effective when tagging different objects within an image. The AI beat the human's code by 4%. Machines have already learned to encrypt their communication. Maybe sometimes in the future they don't want humans to be able to listen anymore. And Japanese engineers have already learned AI robots to cook just by watching lots of YouTube videos. I can imagine that's how Skynet started out as well. So beware of cooking robots. Seriously, beware of cooking robots. But for now, smart machines have to be at least as smart as dumb humans. It's true. A key moment has definitely been the acquisition of the DeepMind team, which made headline news by mastering the game of Go and pretty much annihilating a Go grandmaster. It had started by learning from thousands of games played by humans, and the new AlphaGo Zero began with the blank Go board and no data apart from the rules, and then basically played itself. Within 72 hours, it was good enough to beat the original program by 100 games to 0. Now, it's pretty much a Go god. Zuck also wanted to buy them, but, well, Google snatched them away. With search, AI is already helping as well. RankBrain helps Google to understand what might be the correct user intent. So what's the intention behind a query? What is the searcher really trying to find? And that is what RankBrain is all about, understanding. RankBrain lets us understand queries better, no effect on crawling, nor indexing, or replace anything in ranking. So it all starts with a search query, and RankBrain tries to guess what the user is really searching for, and then it's the Hummingbird, a pretty crucial update a while back, which now tries to find the best matching set of results for this query. There's not all too much artificial intelligence involved at the moment. RankBrain does not learn directly from the users yet. It's an offline learning algorithm. It's refreshed every now and then with new training data. It's perfect for queries that we haven't seen before, really long, complex queries. It can produce very good predictions about what will work best for the user. 15% of Google searches done by users on a daily basis have never been seen before. And RankBrain uses artificial intelligence to embed vast amount of written language into mathematical entities called vectors that the computer can understand. I guess most of you have already heard of Ver2Vec. It's mentioned in this patent, computing numeric representation of words in a high-dimensional space. Maybe you recognize this name here, Greg Corrado. This is the guy who first spilled the beans on RankBrain in this Bloomberg article 2 years ago. That's when all the rage started. The co-author of this patent is Thomas Mikaloff, who originally released Ver2Vec. Facebook lured him away from Google, so you can make an educated guess on what Facebook is building right now. And Yandex is already doing something very similar. It's called Palek, and they're also using vectors in a 300-dimensional space. To illustrate, just by reading news articles, you can find out the capital cities of different countries by measuring the lengths of these vectors. The vectors of Germany and Berlin and France and Paris are of the same length. The Netherlands in Nijmegen's vector, on the other hand, would probably have a different length, most probably. This way, RankBrain can predict a search intent. A major factor here is the possibility of voice search. Voice search queries are likely longer than classic typed search, and searches via voice search are oftentimes profoundly different from classic desktop searches. Time and again, it's just different phrasing of always the same search request. So, how is the weather in Nijmegen? Current weather, Nijmegen. Does the sun shine in Nijmegen? Sun is always shining in Nijmegen, right? Always. It is vitally important for Google to understand their users. And let me tell you why. 2014, Eric Schmidt said their biggest competitor is Amazon, because Amazon has a pretty enticing share of the search market for commercial queries. So if you're looking to buy something. Most of the people now go directly to Amazon and don't bother to consult Google anymore. Over 50% of all commercial searches start at Amazon already. But Google has a very elaborate plan. They are trying to extinguish Amazon's traffic stream by trying to anticipate a commercial intent and then serve the user a corresponding offer before he even thinks about surfing to Amazon. You need two things to accomplish this feat. First, you got to be able to listen, ideally around the clock. Fortunately, their Android OS has a pretty significant market share, and this is really happening. Google voice search records and keeps conversations people have around their phones, but the files can be deleted. The phone has to listen the whole time so it doesn't miss the acoustic trigger, OK Google. But of course, we know we all can trust Google, right? Yeah, we can trust Google. Sure, files can be deleted. The Chrome browser can listen as well. You might want to change your Chrome settings. Same here, the browser is listening 24/7, just waiting for the magic words, OK Google. Voice search usage is on the rise, although the most searched for keyword right now is call mom. Yeah? Being a dad, I hate it, that is like twice the search volume. Search behavior is just fundamentally different. Google expects by 2020, 50% of all searches will be voice-led. We are currently still at the very start, though. As speech recognition accuracy goes from, say, 95% to 99%, all of us in the room will go from early using it today to using it all the time. Most people underestimate the difference between 95% and 99% accuracy. 99% is a game changer. And they are really close. This game changer could happen as early as next year. It's not just phones and browsers. Google is ultimately aiming for your home. Google Home. Comparable to Amazon Echo. And besides being able to listen, there's something else which is very important. Trust. Who do you trust to be able to build a working passive search? When we started Google 15 years ago, my vision was that information would come to you as you need it. You wouldn't have to search query at all. There's an interesting patent, search result ranking based on trust, credited to Ramanathan Guha, who founded the well-known Babelfish 20 years ago. And the patent talks of so-called trust buttons. But there don't have to be any physical buttons on a page. It's rather about examining web visitation patterns of the user and inferring from the web visitation patterns that the user trusts recommendations associated with the entity. So the more often I visit a specific website, the more likely I'm going to trust this website. Makes sense. But Google is going even further, examining computer-based records belonging to the user, such as an email contact list. Thank God they are running a very popular email service. So how often do I email with certain people? How fast do I usually respond to their emails? And what's the sentiment? Do I send kind regards or do I finish my emails with cheers, buddy? Who do you trust? Trust is the most important thing. Still one more. One more. Come on. I love it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave this here. Don't forget, the future of search is not about people finding things. It's about things finding people. Although Google has different plans already. I actually think most people don't want Google to answer their questions. They want Google to tell them what they should be doing next. Of course. Enough theory. YoastCon is about practical SEO this year. So besides the Yoast SEO plugin, and of course, right, Google Search Console is the most important tool for SEO webmasters. I would like to share some practical tips when working with Google Search Console. Can I ask real quick, who in here is using Google Search Console? Who is not using Search Console? Why don't you use Search Console? You're like the only guy in here. You use Bing Webmaster Central or something? Of course. Yeah, good luck. So Google Search Console, formerly been known as Google Webmaster Central, formerly Google Webmaster Tools, which launched as early as 2001. It looked a lot different back then. It was a simpler time. Today, it's a full-blown suite and true treasure chest for SEO webmasters. Let's start with some basic stuff. Of course, you can check your index status, so how many of your pages are indexed in Google. This does not necessarily match the results of a site search command. As always, the number of results you see in search results is really just an approximation that's less accurate the more potential results exist. You can also identify crawl errors. If you have over 1,000, download all of them and mark them as fixed, and then you get new ones, or of course, old ones as well. Sometimes there are weird URLs listed, but it makes sense to explore what Google is criticizing. You can also change the status code from expired pages from 404 to 410. 404 status code pages get crawled maybe 5 to 6 times, while 410 status code pages get only double checked if they are really gone. You can also test your robots.txt. I wish more people would take care of their robots.txt. It's your domain's house rules. It's always the first thing I look when I'm auditing a website. Google also helps you with international targeting, of course, weapon of choice, the hreflang tag. And as you probably know, when you specify another language, you also have to include the correct return tag. And in Google Search Console, you can check if you're missing any of these return tags. With Google Search Console, you also have the option to remove URLs, only temporarily though. URLs are sort of faded out for a certain period of time. It's about 90 days. If you really want to remove a URL, you will have to slap no index on there. Within Google Search Console, Google also encourages you to enrich your site results with rich cards, to be part of enriched mobile search results. What started with rich snippets is being followed up with rich cards. Google is adapting to the new favorite mobile usage behavior, Tinderization. Swiping has become a very popular mobile usage behavior. In GC, you can check the performance of your rich card results. Getting structured data is becoming increasingly important for Google. By the way, it makes sense to work with the structured data testing tool if you work with structured data. Of course, the most awesome tool is Search Analytics. There's an interesting passage in the 2001 Google Webmaster Tools PageRank information section. We update our index every 4 weeks. This used to be called the Google Dance. Coincidentally, Google Dance was also the name of a legendary party at the Googleplex. You always got a great t-shirt. I took this photo at Google Dance 2006. Matt Cutts was really a rock star in our industry, the head of web spam, something very important for Google because there is no spam, only bad algorithms. And Matt is now working for the US government, but he had been fighting web spam at Google ever since 2000, back when web spam was still a lot different. Prior to that point in time, on-page optimization tips from many SEOs, including me, would have sounded something like this: use your keywords heavily everywhere. I was also still on the dark side, but eventually I turned my back on black hat SEO techniques and became a convinced white hat. Before, I always used to say, you just have to throw enough shit at Google, something will stick. The decisive moment was a blog post 10 years ago from my good friend Ren Fishkin. And the post is called "Why I Love the Sordid Underbelly of the Search World," where he talks about alleged black hats and stuff like this. And within this article he wrote, "There's Marcus Tandler, who Google Dublin has been gunning for by name." Wild speculation. I spare you the whole story. Of course, it's been a huge misunderstanding. It's not about that story anyways. It's about something different. Ren spelled my name wrong, which I was quite happy about, since I wasn't really keen on ranking with my real name within this context. But someone else corrected him. Matt Cutts. "Fun post, but I think you got Tandler's name wrong. I believe it's Marcus, not Marcus." Yeah, thanks a lot. Ren Fishkin, "And you do know him by name. Thanks for the catch. Fixing now." Yeah, thanks for that. I think my good friend Bob Rain sums it up perfectly. Oh, snap. Yeah. Of course, today he knows that I'm a true white hat. He doesn't care. He works for the government now. Back to the technical Google dance. Results were static. This had finally changed with the caffeine update in 2010. No ranking update, an infrastructural update. Results finally became dynamic. Google was also finally able to make live ranking experiments with every single search. I can really recommend this fantastic talk from SMX West last year. It's called How Google Works. It's from Paul Haar. He's been a principal engineer at Google for exactly 15 years now. And this slide is especially interesting. He shows very clearly how Google uses user, usage, and interaction data to interpret the results of live ranking experiments. We do A/B experiments on real traffic, and then we're looking for changes in click patterns. We run a lot of experiments. It is very rare if you do a search on Google and you are not in at least one experiment. Of course, those are not all ranking experiments. Google famously tested 42 different shades of blue to find the optimal blue for the search result links. Paul also shared a funny anecdote in the Q&A about an experiment. So Google had an ongoing experiment just switching the position 2 and position 4 result. So what do you think happened? The click-through rate of the first result improved significantly, because since the number 2 result was really just number 4 worthy, the number 1 result looked even more shiny. It's all a huge performance test. Links might get you into the top 10, but all you get is the chance to prove yourself, to prove you're really top 10 material. All users decide which search result is really the best. And this is where some webmasters stumble. Ooh. Nasty. I think everyone knows these days how important the click-through rate has become. I was always a believer in click-through rate being a ranking factor. I was invited to speak at SMX Stockholm 2009, which was 7 months before Google announced the completion of their caffeine update. I was invited to talk on a session, SEO ranking factors in 2010. How much does that H1 tag really matter? I shared a completely different theory. These are my slides from back then. So here's a theory. I know it's a bit out there, but it just makes sense. CTR as a ranking factor. First reaction in the audience? Yeah. I had a convincing theory about 2 very different sides' ranking behavior for the same keyword, which led to my theory about how CTR could actually be a ranking factor, at least in this case. Although I argued my theory convincingly, I was laughed at a lot. I got quite some shit from the link-building worshippers. 4 months later, Google started showing this data in Google Webmaster Tools. I guess you can imagine how stoked I was about this. Links have been important in my line of work for a very long time. Today, links are definitely still important, but their significance has decreased in favor of real user intent. Google had to become independent from a ranking factor which can be easily gamed from the outside. Google is mining a lot of different, more reliable data. Google has access to a huge treasure chest, billions of searches. It's actually 2 trillion searches per year. Of course, we all know that most of these searches are for porn. Of course. This guy there, oh my God. 63,000 searches per second, 3.8 million searches per minute, 228 million searches per hour, 5.5 billion searches every single day. But Google stays hungry. Google needs even more data to map real user behavior, because a huge part of the user journey might not be within Google's reach. Of course, I'm not talking about Google Analytics here. Google is deliberately not using analytics data for search. Chrome is still a very powerful weapon for Google. Chrome market share is still on the rise. Chrome is the only browser which actually is still gaining market share, by the way. There's only a handful of countries left where Google is not the #1 browser yet. Resistance is futile. UB is simulated. Yeah. You think I'm taking this too far? Come on, there's a bit of resemblance here. A bit of resemblance. By the way, Sundar Pichai has been one of only very few people campaigning for Google to enter the browser market. It was actually him and a team of 10 people who started the Chrome project. And I think this is one of the reasons why Sundar is now the CEO of Google. Google's former CEO, Eric Schmidt, however, was afraid of bruising browser wars. To be fair, in 2008, the browser market looked a lot different, with an absolute market leader, the Internet Explorer, and a likable alternative with a strong fan base, the Firefox. Then came Google. Google prevailed. That's a whole lot of real user data, which gets collected even when you are offline. Google's very own name server, 8888, has also been proven very helpful for collecting precious user data. Introduced back in 2009, allegedly faster, more secure, a true alternative without any barriers on DNS level. And by now, 7% of all worldwide requests are routed via the Google name server. That's 400 million requests per day. Of course, again, at least 50% porn. This way, Google knows very well which URLs are being requested, respectively, how the whole user journey throughout the web really looks like. Privacy concerns are very important when using these vast amount of data. Take DoubleClick, for example, one of the smartest acquisitions Google has ever made. Privacy has always been the #1 priority when we contemplate new kinds of advertising products. At least this was the case 10 years ago. Last year, Google updated their terms and conditions and quietly dropped the ban on personally identifiable web tracking. Before, it used to say, we will not combine DoubleClick cookie information with personally identifiable information unless we have your opt-in consent. Now it's, depending on your account settings, your activity on other sites and apps may be associated with your personal information in order to improve Google's services and the ads delivered by Google. This is worth mentioning since Google also has a pretty dominating market position in the ad server market with a market share of over 75%. Google can see a pretty wide radius of the user story. But again, we know we can trust Google, of course. Back to Google Search Console. So in the beginning, Google Webmaster Tools used to show CTR data very granularly. Now you're only getting an average value. Total impressions are an aggregated result. As you can see, it's really been only 46 searches or unique searches, so the real CTR is 35%. If a site appears twice on a search results page when aggregating by site, it counts as a single impression. If I'm grouping by page or search appearance, each unique page is counted separately. No wonder nobody clicks on those anchor links. Oh, and by the way, as far as I know, the answer box result on top does not count, although it's the same URL. Please don't mind me showing you Search Console data from the on-page org era. Our brand and website relaunch has only been a few months ago, so I just have a lot more on-page org data. The website relaunch went very well, though. We have a very talented SEO, Daniel, in our team. We are already at a higher search visibility than before the relaunch. CTR and average position are aggregated as well, which can lead to confusing results when you're having site links. So first of all, I have an average position of 5.6, but the wiki article has an average ranking position of 10.1 with a whopping 26% click-through rate. Those site links only get displayed when the wiki article is the #1 result, hence the 0.1 average. And this explains the extremely high CTR for a 10.1 average result. And the overall 5.6 average is calculated by adding up the impressions from all individual pages times their average position divided by the total impressions count. In this case, adding up to 5.6. Don't worry about data discrepancies you might encounter, especially when you compare Google's two most important tools. Here's an example, a pretty extreme peak for the term clickbaiting. With peaks like this, it's easy due to tests regarding the validity of the data. By the way, it's resonating exactly with Google Trends. According to Google Analytics, it's been more than 3 times the amount of users. To protect user privacy, search analytics might not show you all the data. For example, they might not track some queries that are made a very small number of times, or those that might contain personal or sensitive information. There can be a time lag of 2 to 3 days when the numbers are calculated and when they are visible to webmasters. Time zones matter. Search analytics tracks daily data according to Pacific Daylight Time. If another system uses a different time zone, those views may not match exactly. Google Analytics shows time in the webmaster's local time zone. Sometimes it's also the other way around. Some tools, such as Google Analytics, track traffic only from users who have enabled JavaScript in their browser. I would like to show you a couple more patterns I see quite frequently when working with the Search Console. Let's start with multiple pages being displayed for the same keyword. Generally, you want only one page ranking for a keyword, ideally the best page. Stuff like this looks like trouble at first sight, but in this case, most of these pages are site links. Of course, the home page is getting the most clicks. In our case, the pricing page is the second most clicked, even before a free version. A little bit weird, right? Every individual page gets tested for performance with a certain share of search queries. Here's another pattern for a good multiple ranking. Our wiki article is getting slightly over 3,000 impressions for on-page SEO, on average position number 2. In a little over 2/3 of these searches, I'm also the number 3 result. And on top of this, 20% of the time, my homepage even ranks additionally on number 4 for true SERP domination. So site links and multi-rankings are okay. So how can you identify problems? So, for example, cases of keyword cannibalization. The best way is to filter for an exact query to find multiple pages ranking for this query. Here's a clear case. 2 seemingly identical pages competing for the same keyword. In this case, sitemap XML. It's indeed the same page, ode to an untidy wiki cleanup. A clear case for a 301 redirect, combining the link power of both pages. The page is already featured in the answer box, so climbing up at least one spot is definitely possible. The user's location is also very important. The displayed pages can also be based on a user's location, so like in this case, Rhineland-Pfalz, Baden-Württemberg, or of course, beautiful Bavaria. You can also do insightful comparisons. Let's start with the classic desktop versus mobile performance. The CTR of our pricing page is more than 3 times higher with mobile searches. The on-page SEO article as well, almost 9 times higher CTR. And best CTR, our team page. You can really see how a higher click-through rate corresponds with a better average ranking position. When comparing countries, you can really see the power of your brand and how your brand influences click behavior. So in Germany, almost 53% of all users searching for canonical tag are clicking through to our wiki article. In Austria, it's a little bit smaller CTR, hence a little bit worse of a ranking. Exhibit B, it's again a little bit worse in Switzerland, same behavior. In the UK, well, we're getting there. And we seem to be not really in the relevant set in the US yet. Oh, by the way, you don't always need a high CTR to rank on the first page. With navigational queries, Google does not expect a lot of clicks beyond the first result. You can also identify performance tests with search analytics data. Here's an example. The search term is good old SEO. The contender is one of our wiki articles. If I look at it from the outside, it seems like the page is bouncing heavily, not really seeing all too much page 1 action. But if you take a look at the Search Console data, it's much more insightful. Check out this period of time. a pretty obvious top 10 performance test. Is this page really worthy of a permanent top 10 position? Unfortunately, these jumps into the top 10 weren't all too much successful. Yeah, this goes on and on, yeah. Of course, with a search term like SEO, with naturally a lot of competition, it's hard to rank with Wikipedia-type content on the first page, especially since Wikipedia is already ranking top 1. Oh, by the way, I hope I don't have to add that this jump into the top 10 had nothing to do with links. These repeated jumps from the second to the first page are clear performance tests to see if you are permanent top 10 material. In my case, I failed. Well deserved, I might add. Of course, it's not just about a good CTR. When you have people convinced to click through to your site, now it's up to you to perform and satisfy their search need. Search Console also helps you to find keyword opportunities. My case is here Augenringe entfernen, so how to remove dark eye circles. I like German, it's so efficient, right? 25,000 impressions, so quite juicy. And the same page is also ranking for another related keyword, Augenringe unterspritzen. So how to inject something to get rid of dark eye circles. Again, German, very efficient. If you compare both search queries, I can see a lot of potential. Of course, it's a little bit less traffic, but when you're SEO by heart, you're always going for it all. Don't get fooled by traffic peaks. The term Augenringe entfernen is always peaking about Christmas and New Year's. Who would have thought? Seems to resonate almost exactly with Google Trends in this case again. A good performance is key. You can watch good performing pages moving up the Google ranks. What happens if you don't perform well? 3.7% on position 2.8. That's not good. 0% on 3.7. 0% on 4.0. 0% on 7.4. 0% on 8.5. With great SEO, you get nothing more than a chance. If you get the chance, don't suck. Don't fuck it up. By the way, if you want to work more easily with Search Console data, you should definitely try our Search Success module. This is slide number 345. You have done it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. That was really inspiring and slightly scary when you talk of Google. Is there anyone wanting to ask a question? I think we have time for one question, and then we'll put Marcus. We'll stay here and ask questions in the panel.
So you can ask a question now before we do in the question and answer panel, right?
You can now ask your question only for Marcus.
I also have 100 backup slides, so we can just get going.
Anyone?
Here we go. Hi, Marcus.
Hey.
You said you get one chance at the top 10. Don't suck. What if, for some reason, you do suck? Do you ever get a second chance with that same content?
Yeah, this is what I meant. I didn't mean to say you only get one chance. If you have repeatedly have Google gets good signals from you. You still get a lot of links. Still a lot of people search for your brand and stuff like this, right? Google gets a lot of signals. Well, this page should belong into the top 10. And then they will try again and again. And this is actually one of the cases I showed in Stockholm, where exactly this stuff happened. That was tested again and again because it was high authoritative, but just didn't work for that specific keyword, right? So if like the natural signals come in, you will get another chance time and time again. But yeah, you really have to perform to really stay within the top 10. Yeah.
Okay, then I would like to invite Roy and Joost and Dave to the stage, and Michiel.
Thanks again. You were a fantastic audience. Thank you.